It's hot. It's very hot. The UK is not designed for heat waves. Hello everybody, I'm Lorien and these are my top tips for surviving Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde's coming! Okay, so it's not that big a deal and it's not that scary, it's not a reason to panic, but for many of us we can normally tell by the waters in our veins when Mercury retrograde is on its way, because things start to break down and we normally can tell that there's something not quite good on its way. Usually this is because for a few weeks beforehand, as it shadows or stations to go retrograde, us witchy folk go, something's breaking down. Is it Mercury retrograde? Mercury is the planet of communication. Depending on where Mercury retrograde happens in your astrological chart, this can determine how you communicate through this period and how it will affect you throughout this period as well. You may find your communication methods different from others. For instance, if you have your Mercury in your 4th house of family and home, and your friend has their Mercury in the 8th house, which is taboo and other people's money, you may find the way that you communicate with each other slightly differs, and your focus is on different things. If your Mercury retrograde falls directly in either house, you'll probably find something comes up within those houses, so that's kind of how it goes. The lessons that Mercury also gives you could differ. So, for instance, if it's in your 4th house, when Mercury goes retrograde, you could have more time needed to be spent with family, or just some more time needed to reflect on family issues. So it will affect us in all very different ways, but there are some basic ways that it affects us all as well. The biggest basic is that it's going to be complicated, and we need to prepare for this complicated planet to go backwards. Instead of us rushing around, us meeting deadlines, all that kind of stuff, Mercury retrograde kind of tells us to be still. It actually demands us to be still so we can have that time to reflect. Similar to Mars being retrograde, but that's probably another video in the making. Mercury being in retrograde is normally a time for reflection, and we can look behind us and prepare for what's to come. But that isn't all Mercury brings. Mercury tends to bring with it a lot of challenges, a lot of segues, a lot of instances where we may not have had time to prepare for it. So with these tips, I'm hoping to kind of prepare you or give you some advice and from where I have been in Mercury retrograde, just to kind of help you through that period. And this isn't just for this Mercury retrograde, it's for all Mercury retrogrades. So it's not just for the one coming up in mid-July for 2018, it's for every single Mercury retrograde. Yes, they will be slightly different because, as I said before, the houses may differ, so the focus on the lessons may differ. But to be honest, like I said, the basics are going to be the same. Step 1 is to back up everything. Back up everything. Phone records, computer files, contact details, event planners, diaries, car records, insurance, everything that you have digital, make sure there's a copy, make sure there's a copy of the copy. Just be diligent in everything that you've got this month, because I don't want you caught short when Mercury goes retrograde, because that's the main thing that it affects, technology. So it's not just kind of other things that it affects, on the communication level, because we've developed technology to communicate. It's going to affect it. I know in Mercury retrograde before, my brand new phone decided to crash. So I had to go about 50 minutes to the nearest city with a repair shop and wait there for about most of the afternoon to actually have it fixed. So, yay! Basically, you do not want to be caught short if your lifeline dies. You do not want to be caught out of the loop if you really need a meeting with somebody and Skype doesn't work, or if you can't find the number for somebody that you really need to contact. You don't want to feel the panic that comes with that, so make sure if you write it down if you have to, make sure that you have that piece of paper somewhere, because that's also a method of communication that Mercury retrograde can sniffle away. Unfortunately, and it really is unfortunate, there are a lot of things that happen during Mercury retrograde that are on a global scale, to do with technology and to do with communication. I know a few years back actually there was something to do with a theme park near where I am, and a big crash happened during Mercury retrograde which significantly changed people's lives. And not to mean that, I don't want to scaremonger anybody, I don't want to say, ooh, watch out. It was a very isolated incident. However, if you are relying on technology, unmanned technology, to do a job that requires the safety of people, or if you're doing something that's very important to you, or if something like that, you need to keep your eye on the ball, basically, even more so during this period, and make sure that you keep checking up on things, security details, all that kind of stuff, because one little thing that's out of it could kind of just be the thing that Mercury needs to enforce a lesson, or enforce something that we didn't anticipate. Sometimes, even though we prepare, we can be caught short, basically, and I would rather that you connect with it now than pay the consequences later. If you rely on technology from day to day, month to month, just make sure everything's backed up. Just make sure that you can't be blamed for something that goes wrong, because if you do back it up and you do have issues with your devices or something, you won't feel so bad if you have a backup there as you would have if you'd lost everything. It's happened to me before, it's happened to friends before. Just be careful. Here's a favourite of many people: expect delays. So this could be to do with contracts coming through the post, emails, lovers, you expected a call from them, trains, traffic jams, things not going the way you planned to the T, you know what I mean? It could just be delays. Now, for the majority of them, it could be a higher purpose, it could be a higher power coming in to say, we need you to do it this way, and this delay is for a reason. But in Mercury retrograde, sometimes the delays are just because it's retrograde. So like traffic jams and things like that, there won't be any reason for it necessarily. It's just a communication issue, it's a travel issue, and it's one of them things. If you can, take it in your stride. It's not meant to stress you out, or it may do. It's not meant to be personal. It's not meant to get you so stressed you can't. If you can, take it in your stride. It's not meant to stress you out, or it may do. It's not meant to be personal. It's not meant to get you so stressed you can't handle it. It's just one of those things. So do your best to prepare for delays. If somebody doesn't get back to you, don't fret about it. If you don't get a contract when you thought so, if you don't have something that, an important document that you thought was going to come through, yeah, you can chase it up, but don't think it's just them being lazy. If you can, just sort of look at it as, maybe this is something that we need to check again in future, but take it as just one of them things. It's that time of the year where I just need to be calm about it. Like I said, there's usually a higher reason for delays like that, like significant delays. For instance, if something very important is meant to happen and it doesn't, then you guys may have a reason for that. But otherwise, the little things, the smaller things that are just irritants, that's probably Mercury retrograde. Another tip is do not sign. Now, you may have heard this bandied about a little bit about certain instances where they're saying if you get a contract, don't sign it. If you buy something new, don't sign. Don't buy something new. It's basically do not start anything new during Mercury retrograde, because Mercury retrograde is a time for reflection, which I'll get back to in a few minutes. But don't sign anything just means that the fine print can be missed, details of contracts can be missed, new things coming through that could be missed, and it's always better to err on the side of caution, just to sort of make sure that you have everything in the loop and you know what you're getting into, rather than pay the price again later. Same goes for technology. Tend not to buy anything during Mercury retrograde, even if it breaks down, because chances are that new item will also break down. I got a hard drive because my PC broke, please don't do it again, a few years ago, and that hard drive, because it was during Mercury retrograde, it's still got issues on it. It's still a little bit corrupted, but it was expensive, so I'm not going to change it. But yeah, it's that kind of same thing with, it's all going to have an effect. It's all going to have a particular thing. So if you can, just sort of, again, err on the side of caution. I think this is the lesson for Mercury retrograde all over. Just try and make sure that you are not putting all your eggs in one basket during this time, because chances are a few of those eggs may crack and you won't have replacements. The next tip is, don't take it personally. Planet of communication is going backwards. So will people. They will go forward 2 steps, only to go backwards about 7. It's going to be complicated. You can either expect yourself or for others to forget things, not say the things they mean right away, misunderstand what you're trying to say, try and backpedal a lot of the time, say things without thinking, misunderstand others' intentions, and have some pretty petty arguments. You may have seen that meme actually that goes around on Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr, and it comes up saying, "I'm sorry for what I said during Mercury retrograde," and that is a thing. Some people will not have any filter, some people will just be so stressed with everything else that they go thick and snap. So don't take it personally if that happens. It is what it is, and you can expect some bickering, basically, either concerning you or not concerning you. You're likely to find that something is going on around you with regards to some misheard words or some misunderstandings, or just plain tensions rising to the surface, to be honest. At a time where, we're meant to be reflecting, and the world is constantly moving forwards and forwards and forwards, and we're meant to be standing still, we can meet that resistance with some resistance of our own, and that can cause a lot more tensions to come up, and it can cause a lot of people to misunderstand what we're trying to do and how we're trying to be. And I genuinely think that if we could just kind of take a step back and understand that we're not necessarily trying to overcomplicate things, and we're not trying to jar things up by standing still, that I think would make everything a lot easier. So again, if you're a boss and you see people just slowing down, it's just the nature of Mercury retrograde, and the right thing to do is not to force it to speed up, because that resistance is going to cause more problems. The friction that is created from that will cause some issues, I suppose, but just take it in your stride if possible. Wait till things calm down. Maintain a clear head during it, and if somebody says something you don't like, or you're a bit confused about something, take a step away, process it, and then react to it. Don't react immediately. Just kind of see if you can make sense of what they actually meant or what's actually going on, rather than go, hang on a second, and just go into overdrive, because again, it's causing some resistance to the natural flow of what Mercury retrograde wants. Nobody's going to hate you for taking time off to gather your thoughts from some complicated conversations or some mentally draining conversations. Nobody's going to say, why have you taken this time? If they do, to be honest, they are bad, naughty human beings. But if you do want to take some time off, well, nobody's going to hate you for taking time off to gather your thoughts from some complicated conversations or some mentally draining conversation. Nobody's going to say, why have you taken this time? If they do, to be honest, they are bad, naughty human beings. But if you do want to take some time off, or just an hour to go, hang on, let me process this, nobody should actually question that or say that's wrong. You should just be able to, even if it's at work, home, family, it doesn't matter, just take that time to walk around the garden or just escape somewhere else and consider what's happening, and that will be probably your best asset to do. One of the last tips that I want to bring up is to use this reflection time wisely. This is very much a time to sit and think back on the last few months, what you want to change, what went well, what went wrong, if there's anything you want to try differently, if there's anything you want to keep the same, just to sort of reflect on where you have been and how far you've come over the last few months, or maybe even the better part of a year in some cases. It could be a time to heal some wounds and try and kind of develop that intuition. See how far you've come in developing and healing your wounds. See how much you have progressed in your maybe day-to-day spirituality. Because a lot of times Mercury retrograde can help you open up and regain your confidence. I know that's happened to a lot of friends of mine, including myself, at some points in my life, so it could be the key for you to just kind of shut down and maybe pay attention to your inner thoughts and your inner guidance that can sometimes be overlooked in the flurry of day-to-day life. You can do some journaling work, you can do some meditations, maybe spend some time in, quite 15 minutes a day, or if you can manage it, 15 minutes every weekend, because I know some of you are really busy. Just to spend time living in the present rather than in the future all the time, because that's something that I think is very big in society right now, is that we're always thinking about tomorrow, next day, what we've got going on, diary, scheduling. Now's the time to kind of leave that to one side of it. Take advantage of Mercury retrograde if you can, and just go, okay, what am I doing now? How do I feel right now? How can I process this? And that can actually lead to a lot of different answers that maybe you didn't think you'd ever get. It can also enlighten you as to if there's anything you want to do differently. So yeah, Mercury can be a pain in the butt sometimes, but it can also be a very enlightening and eye-opening time. For instance, in the manner of things getting lost, I have seen emails getting lost, contracts getting lost, communication being misheard, phone lines not working, stuff like that. And it has been the best case scenario for a lot of people. People during this time of reflection and maybe stumbling over what they want to say have actually come out in the truth. Or something has been revealed to people. Or the delay has actually been the best possible case scenario for the situation. So it's not all bad, it can have its good moments. It just depends on how open you are to receiving these little surprises that may come with some of the negative and stressful surprises, like losing your phone under the carpet or something. It could be something that you didn't plan on, but it actually works out for the better. It can also be that you realise something about yourself in the quietness that you wouldn't have done if it was full steam ahead. It could be that you find the nicer moments in a relationship that you didn't see before because you were so busy. And I think that this is very good for you to just reflect on your life and see what kind of dialogue you want to open up when communication comes back to the forefront. So it's not always a bad time. It can be challenging and annoying, but it can also be a blessing. It can also be a great time of revelations about yourself, and just sort of understanding where you fit into the big jigsaw which is the world. So go forwards and treat others with sensitivity, treat yourself with self-care, and just as much consideration as you would give others during this time as well. I hope this has helped you, and I look forward to hearing about what happens for you in Mercury retrograde very soon.